Hi, I am here with the ever popular Jamar Hardy, my managing broker at 53rd and Lindale. And we're going to kick off the year starting to talk about 2019 and what you think 2019 holds in the market. So, of course, a lot of people heard last year and the year before, low inventory, high prices, lots of competition. Do you think we're going to continue to see that in 2019?
Absolutely. I don't necessarily see a change coming anytime soon. I still think segments like new construction are going to have to really bounce back in a strong way, which, recently I found out it's a pretty soft market out there for people looking for new construction. I think a lot of big box builders are giving deals right now to try to unload some of their inventory, but we're going to have to see kind of that coming back strong before I think we hit maybe a next little correction, if you will. I think consumer confidence, especially on the selling side, needs to kind of also go up a little bit more too. We need more sellers coming to the market with their inventory because, again, I think I've preached about this several times. The lender-mediated stuff doesn't exist anymore. So where are we going to find the inventory?
Yeah, I think they said they thought it was going to be a record year for building permits, and it did not turn out that way with new construction. So, I think we're seeing a little bit maybe more condo building with some changes in legislation, but still a lot of apartments, a lot of high-end apartments. So I agree, more sellers. Which brings us to inventory right now. So we just started the new year. What do you feel like inventory looks like if someone's out and about buying right now?
Well, I think, there's been no better time for buyers as far as having options with not a whole lot of competition. I think it was December or November, maybe both months, were record highs for houses on the market, right? So if you look at the absorption rate and how many opportunities do I have to choose from when I'm out there looking, I think that number was high. Definitely year over it was up, but maybe at a 5 or 6 year high on that number. So that for somebody looking to buy right now and not minding moving through the winter, I think you have less competition now. So you can get out there, maybe be a little bit more picky or choosier in spring.
Maybe not quite as many choices as you're going to have in the spring if you're looking for something specific, but I guess that brings us to the next question is that I was asked just today, in fact.
Okay.
When does the spring market really start in Minneapolis or Minnesota as a whole, where we're very highly seasonal?
What time is it now? I think it started a while ago. No, I think historically we try to say Super Bowl, right? So somewhere around there is where you kind of see the ramping up. When we have unseasonably warm weather, like I guess we could say we're having now to finish the week off, I think you do get more people making inquiries about either getting their house on the market ready for spring, or even buyers out there shopping. I mean, I've heard open houses have held strong through the winter. People that have listings and agents that are holding openings are getting a lot of people through. So to me, I feel like the spring market, really kind of after that Super Bowl really comes in full effect. But the weather permitting, it could go a little bit sooner than that. I mean, if we continue to get nice weather, I think people's purchasing biorhythms, if you will, are always up when it's nicer outside than when it's cold and gray and all that.
Very true. Having
stuff.
it open tomorrow, so I hope that's true. So with the spring market, generally we're going to see more options for people, but also with that more competition and probably a bit higher prices than if they were to buy now or certainly maybe a month ago.
Well, I know we're going to hit on this too. I think you always have to think about rates, right, and where they're going. So, I think rates always kind of, in a very honest way, level off how something may increase, right? So, I think there's that happy median depending on where you are purchasing at, especially first-time home buyers, where, keep an eye on rates. I mean, they're still historically low, but obviously we're over 5% now. I think there was a little volatility around when think the Feds released something and people thought the rates were going to shoot up, but they didn't do anything. If anything, they dipped maybe a little bit. You know, expect obviously for first-time home buyers really to not have as many choices, but really look at you know, finding that happy median, what they could afford and where rates are at. You know, when it comes to just looking at your options out there. I hope I didn't steal your thunder on the rates. I just felt like
I have more rate information
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I picked Amy's brain a little bit early today. Amy Loftus, our in-house loan officer, and she was telling me that right about now we are at 4 5/8 or 4 3/4. Which is low.
Yeah.
We were up to 5 and a little past 5 on certain products at the end of last year. But then anyone who follows the markets, you probably saw they crashed a little bit. And so she's feeling like in the short term they're not going anywhere. There's a lot of confidence that's going to have to be rebuilt in both the market and then with the government shutdown.
Yep.
Long term, of course, we're going up, which of course is, you know, good news. When the economy is good, rates go up. It's generally good for overall health, but 4 3/4 is pretty good if you're thinking about buying in, you know, the next 3 months or so, 4 months maybe. Sounds like they will stay steady for a little bit, and of course, you know, it seems high to a lot of people, including myself, who maybe have rates in the 3s on their mortgage, but we're still historically low. A lot of people, maybe in, you know, their late 40s, early 50s, might have bought their first house at 16, 18%. So,
you know, to that, man, I feel like 4 3/4 is for much of last year was kind of a weird happy medium. Like I feel like rates always kind of, if they go up, they kind of return to that, or if they uptick, they went to like 4 3/4. Like it's just, it's, you know, getting cash is just so cheap comparable to, right? Back in the day, I know when I got in 2002 in the business, it was very common to see people holding 9%, you know, for a rate on their mortgage, and not even, you know, really doing anything about it, right? It's just we're at 9, right? Even if the market adjusted down to 6, they were still at 9, right? So I don't know, cash is cheap right now. I mean, this is a great time to be a buyer, barring you can find what you're looking for out there in the market. So, yeah.
and a little off topic, but it seems like month by month we're seeing more of these, let's call it non-traditional loan products returning to the market.
Yeah.
It just feels like there's always something new, you know, people doing various different adjustable rates, which I know is a little bit scary for people still, but definitely have their place depending on what you're doing. Amy was just talking about something for someone with no income that's assets only, and so we've been seeing a return of a lot of that stuff that wasn't present post.
You know, but some, and I know neither one of us are mortgage professionals, but it's a part of what we do, right? God, the VA, I mean, for the vets out there, you know, if you haven't taken a look at your VA eligibility status, things of that nature, you know, that's one of the bona fide products out there that I think are just rock solid. I mean, getting in there 100% financing, paying, you know, a few fees maybe on the front end, you know, for the loan itself, but being able to use that and use it more than once, you know, is something to advantage for all our vets out there. And thank you for all those service you've given our country. But I mean, for the vets sitting there, maybe listening to this, gosh, take a look at that option if you're thinking about buying, because it's a rock solid program.
It is, yeah, and unfortunately for various reasons I've seen a number of vets who choose not to use it and go with the conventional, but you know, if you have a trusted loan officer, they can sort of talk to you about different ways that it can really work in various situations. So, hot new areas. What do you think? So last year, and I know this is kind of your home territory, so maybe you feel like it's always been doing this, but last year we definitely saw Richfield just blow up. What do you think for this year, / maybe what are you seeing?
I think Richfield's still going to be one of the hottest areas. I mean, I'll just put it out there. Well, you know, just because the proximity to the airport, and it's not a very large scale area, but it has a lot of single family homes, you know, in a very small amount of area. I do think, you know, some of the redevelopment they're doing in Richfield with the roads and the bike paths and you know, some of the I call them buffers with some of the malls that they're doing. It's great to highlight that area. Again, I'm a Richfield guy. I loved East Richfield when they had, you know, all of the homes on the other side of Cedar, where it's now the airport. But the smaller version, a new version of Richfield, I think those prices are going to stay strong. And I know we had an agent in our office who participated in the rental move-up program that Richfield had, which I think is an interesting way to get current renters in Richfield into homes with assistance. So, you know, I think, you know, places like Richfield's going to be hot, but you'll be surprised. I want to go north and talk about Brooklyn Park because affordability, when you're looking at right outside the ring, right? There's no better place to get most bang for your buck than to go out north to Brooklyn Park. And, you know, we're looking at new construction out there that's as low as $350 for like a 4-bedroom, 3-car garage, you know, 3-bath home out there. So I just don't think you can get a better deal being close to the city than out in Brooklyn Park. Amazon's talking about having their campus land there in Brooklyn Park, which I think will shoot up values. Everybody kind of knows what Maple Grove has been doing, which is right next to Brooklyn Park. So, you know, I'm kind of keeping my eye on some of the new construction things that are happening out there. Amazon landing in that area, and then hopefully that will stimulate a little bit of North Minneapolis interest as well, because if Brooklyn Park's prices start going up, I mean, it really does, you know, spotlight even more the affordability in North Minneapolis.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, you know, maybe to a lesser degree, Robbinsdale. I love Robbinsdale for if I had to move out of the city, that's where I'd go. And just north. I mean, I'm sort of looking for a house myself, and some of the prices I see come across, I think that's insane. And then a couple days later, house is gone, you know? So it's, obviously we have low inventory, and so there's people stretching and there's all sorts of affordability, but you know, I think people are seeing that as more of an option, and certainly we can talk about, you know, whether or not I have personal feelings about it, the reality of the fact that very likely we are going to see an amphitheater on that unused section along the river there, which is, you know, for better or worse, going to really shake up home values in that area, I think.
Yeah, I do think that North Corridor home values, I mean, again, keeping my eye on what's going on that side of town. I go back to the Amazon campus, you know, looking at that as their landing spot. I really do see values. I mean, they've really done a decent job of the buffer with Maple Grove, right? Kind of being that before you get further out, that last kind of, you know, first outer ring suburb, you know, so Plymouth, Maple Grove, kind of coming around in Brooklyn Park. They really did a good job of developing that for the people who like the suburban life. So, yeah, I think there's some really good stuff happening north. And light rail at some point.
Yeah, Southwest, well, maybe. It's supposedly it's gonna come through, and you know, I think we can kind of see what that did to certain parts of St. Paul, but also what it didn't do. You know, those values along the light rail are strong, but you still see big price disparities in that kind of Frogtown area, and it, you know, so I think that'll help. I don't know how much that's really going to do to prices in the short term, at least, which all of this sort of brings us around to my very good news of yesterday, which is that I'm going to chair the diversity committee for our association this year. And Jamar is a past chair.
I am.
Yes.
I am.
Also, are you still, or were you were on the National Association?
I was on the National Association Diversity Committee. I also recently had accepted the position for United Realty to be their leader of their diversity and inclusion team for the company. So, some of my work with the association, and Erica's picking up and doing as well, kind of prepared me for this great big opportunity with the company.
So we're two people who talk and care a lot about diversity, and I think Jamar is probably proud, and I certainly am, that we boast a very diverse office here. And as such, I think we've had some discussions, I know I have, about the 2040 plan and how we feel that's actually. So I haven't talked to you about this, so this is fresh for Facebook. What do you think? Do you think it's going to really have an impact on, what is one of the worst disparities in the country in terms of racial homeownership?
So I've been posting a lot, trying to educate the agents on the narrative that nationally, not a very good way, how Minnesota is highlighted for the disparity gap, as you just pointed out, and thinking a lot about it personally. It's unfortunate that as diverse of a community I feel that we are here in Minnesota, it doesn't reflect it in home ownership, and I think it really comes down to having enough advocates out there for the different communities that we have that service our larger community here in Minnesota, to really educate them on home ownership, right? And looking at who's actually buying. So I'll break it to non-whites versus whites, right? I think when you look at the white population in Minnesota, multi-generational home ownership has been a thing. I think we need to look at some of the newer multicultural, if you will, or diverse communities that are bubbling up here in Minnesota or have been here for a little while. A lot of it's first generation, and home ownership is kind of a relative new thing. Even if you look within the African American community, renting is very comfortable. Home ownership seems kind of foreign, like we don't deserve to do that. And I will highlight, there are some agents out there, not necessarily, well, at Edina and outside Edina, that are taking on the initiative one sell at a time, trying to really get, the non-whites into homes and educate them on how to stay in those homes, At the core of it, home ownership really, gives people purpose, gives you something to work for, outside of just, making a car note or paying a car note or paying off credit cards, and that financial freedom piece. I mean, I think it's a real bigger conversation. And you're talking about that 2040 plan. I without knowing the details, there's so many different levels. I think it's the right thing, the initiative to try to push. I just think it needs to be explained better to what it really is going to benefit those in Minneapolis, right? How is that really going to make it a viable tool to bridge that gap in home ownership between whites and non-whites? Because I think at the core of it, that's what it's about. I think those that maybe don't have the sensitivities to the white and non-white home ownership, or just even affordable housing, think it's about parking permits. And it's so much more than about parking permits and triplexes. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I agree. I think, obviously it's a step in the right direction. The fact that our city is even looking at admitting that we have a problem, doing something towards it. I'm all for the upzoning. Do I think it's going to fix this problem? Absolutely not. Right. But, if we start this conversation about here we have a problem, not, home ownership is like high level. We're talking just like affordable rentals that aren't, basically unlivable in some cases. And as we grow, I think it will be very difficult to erase, probably impossible to erase the, legacy of what happened with the restrictive racial covenants and the redlining, and kind of reverse that. So I welcome that this is coming about, but I'm just not sure it's going to do enough. But 21 years is a long time from now, so we've got a little...
Well, yeah, and there's just, and I think maybe I'm more aware of it with, the ability to be on, to lead the diversity and inclusion team here at Edina Realty, but also just some of the, work I've done with just the diversity committees that I've been a part of. It's something that's not a new conversation, right?
No.
But it's definitely something that, as a community, society, we need to all be kind of lock in step on changing this, right? And not be so naive and, sticking our heads in the sand, because my sister just bought a home. She's, in her, early 50s. And the process went so quick for her, where I think she was so amazed that it was that easy. Mm-hmm. And we found a home that was 8 doors down from where my mom lives at. They're in townhouse, 1-level townhouses, and it's perfect for the both of them. My mom, it took me being in the business 9 years before she purchased. And again, we're talking first generation. Even though my grandparents owned, right? Still, they didn't really pass the education down to my mother, and it kind of took me to get into the business, to kind of give the education to my immediate family on how important it is to have our name on something, and just the benefits that come, behind home ownership. I just think it's kind of that old each one teach one. Like, we all need to, pay it forward. That information is free. We don't need to hold on to it. Having more honest conversations about, what you love about your house and what it's doing for your personal financial situation, and just the joy you get from walking through your front door, or the pride you have in your neighborhood, right? I mean those messages need to get out in a very true and honest way, to where we get more people wanting to own homes, right? I think it's very easy to pay somebody to live, but the pride and ownership piece, I think in some communities are lost, because they don't think they maybe even deserve the right to own. Because at one point, like 50 years ago, people people say you don't deserve it. So if I'm saying my sister just bought at 50 years ago, her as an African American wasn't able to purchase in certain areas, we're not far away from the narrative where people say you don't deserve this, you don't deserve to be here. In a weird way, go back to where your people are, get away from us, so we're not so far removed. And if we take it a level deeper, even with the if you look through the way the deeds were written, and no Negroes, in this, that you can't sell to a Negro. Like, what's that? And that's something that still is in the history of some of these houses being built and the way they were recorded, the deeds were recorded. So I think there's a lot of work for us to do. The 2040 plan is I think, just bring a little bit more highlights on it, if we all are open to listening to our issues, our problems here in the state of Minnesota. Stop highlighting the good thing. Let's talk about the tough conversations as well. So.
Yeah, I agree. If you guys ever have a chance to go to a Mapping Prejudice event, do yourselves a favor and go. It is super eye-opening, and we're talking about 50 years of fair housing. And honestly, I was just at a speech, and they said that in those 50 years, it has had no overall impact on the percentage of African Americans versus whites that own homes. So it's still really real here. I'm glad that there is some public acknowledgement of that, but I think that the information that we have is not super widely known. So I think when we look forward to how the city is changing, and especially how those northern parts are gonna go up in prices, we have to think about what our city is going to look like for lower income people, for minorities. And of course, you and I don't have personal control, but education and just promoting diversity within our industry has a trickle down effect on that.
And I'm very passionate. It's funny because I think people ask sometimes, well, what type of agent are you looking for? And I said, an agent that really, gets into our culture, to really see that, we are a South Minneapolis office, so we care about making sure our agent population looks like outside of our doors, right? Very diverse culture. And I like agents that want to learn, that want to be a part of it, that want to do more than just earn a paycheck, right? Who want to give back, because we are pillars at the core of it. Real estate agents are pillars of the community. We are the ones out there educating consumers and letting them know their values, when it's a good time to move, when's a good time to buy. And we're driving that message and narrative. So the more information we can have, the more we can be trusted advisors and resources to our local communities. I think the more we'll see our local communities kind of thrive and make healthy decisions for themselves. So
I agree. We've gotten pretty far off topic, and I think been talking for quite a while. So,
I've been talking too much. Sorry.
Oh, they've gone longer. I bet we
yeah.
haven't surpassed the one that I did with Eric one time. That went for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on sort of 2019? What to look for? Things to think about?
Yeah, I think if you're sitting on inventory, if you have more than one property, or if you're looking to even acquire more than one property, I think this is a year where you'll still have the ability to make the decision for cheap, meaning, rates aren't going to really affect people's opportunities as much. Again, I think the market's really soft. Be diverse in what you're looking for out there. So if you're in that 350 to 400 range, there's a lot of new construction options that entry level people can get into depending on the area you're looking at. And why not get something brand new instead of going in and trying to make something brand new, right? So just be kind of diverse and call Erica up here, or if you have a trusted advisor, make sure you reach out to them before you make the decision. I think this will be a great year in real estate. I'm not a gloom and doom person, so I'm not going to say, oh my God, we're not going to have any houses to sell. I mean, we're kind of like physicians. Like, as long as there's a pulse, right? There's there's people that need to live in a house. So we're going to be here for quite some time, and technology's not going to take us out. So continue to use us as your trusted source before you make your real estate decisions.
Well, as always, you can drop me a private message or send me a text or a voice call even. I picked those up. 612, yeah, like a real voice one, not just texting.
Oh, a voice call. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
612-729-7239.
Wait, before you do it, she always does this. Do you have a New Year's resolution, Erica?
I don't make resolutions, Jamar. I set goals.
Okay, nice. What's your goal for 2019?
Gosh, you want me to tell people about how much money I want to make this year?
If you want, yeah.
No. I have, of course, as I do every year, a financial goal. Because of our unique profession, we have to kind of set those. Beyond that, I want to buy a new house this year. That's on my list. I want to be able to do a pull-up too, which has been on there for a while. But this is the year, guys. I started CrossFit, so don't worry about that. What else is on my list? Oh, I want to launch a podcast this year. That's a big one for me.
Yes, I'm so excited about that news because I've been telling her she needs to launch one. And I would come on and be,
Oh, really? I think secretly you want to launch a podcast and you just want to suck off of my podcast. What about you, Jamar? What are your personal goals or resolutions?
Well, actually more personal is finding more personal, I guess, growth within my physical and my, in a weird way, my spiritual, right? Trying to get back centered, if you will. I got bad knees, so I really want to work on kind of figuring that out. And I don't think I'll ever be able to dunk a basketball again, but it would be nice to be able to grab the rim with two hands again.
Maybe that's a 2-year goal.
Really?
I mean, for you, I guess it's like
really?
barely a jump.
I said 2 hands. I probably still could nick it with 1 hand right now.
I don't know. The next video is going to be us at the Y, blowing Jamar, blowing his knee out. But yeah, okay. Well, we're actually going to end it now. I wonder if Megan's still watching. Hello, Megan, if you're still watching.